All right, y'all, we back with another reaction right here on ABP Reactions. And right now, y'all know we've been following this case, man, with Karmelo Anthony, the young kid out of Texas, man. He has been officially found guilty, man, and given 35 years. Let's see what's going on.
Now, Karmelo Anthony has now been sentenced to 35 years in prison after being found guilty of murder in the fatal stabbing of Austin Metcalf at a Texas high school track meet. And what makes this case so heavy is that this was not one of those situations where the jury only had one option. Before the verdict, the jury had the option to convict Karmelo of murder, convict him of manslaughter, or find him not guilty if they believed this was self-defense. And even after the jury convicted him of murder, the defense still tried to argue something called sudden passion during sentencing, which would have lowered the punishment range and capped his sentence at only 20 years. But the jury rejected that as well. So now a case that started with an argument under a school tent during a rainy track meet has officially ended with one teenager dead and another one sentenced to 35 years in prison.
Crazy, man.
But before we get into the sentence, let's quickly go back to what actually happened. If you guys want a very in-depth breakdown of what happened that day when Karmelo Anthony killed Austin Metcalf, check out my last video. The link will be in the description below as well. But just a very quick recap. A regular high school track meet in Frisco, Texas turned into a tragedy that shook the entire country. 17-year-old Austin Metcalf was stabbed once in the chest after an argument under a team tent. And another 17-year-old at the time, Karmelo Anthony, who's now 19, was arrested and charged with murder. And according to the arrest report, Karmelo allegedly told police, "I was protecting myself," and later said, "I'm not alleged, I did it." Witnesses said the argument started because Karmelo was sitting under Memorial High School team tent during the rain, even though he went to a different school. Austin and other students reportedly told him to leave, and then things escalated. Witnesses described Austin making physical contact with Karmelo and kind of like touching on him and stuff like that, with some describing it as a shove, while the defense argued that Austin was the first one to get physical. But prosecutors argued that even if there was a physical or some type of physical contact, that did not justify pulling out a knife and stabbing someone in the chest. So the entire case came down to one question: was this self-defense or was it murder? And that's the basic gist of this case for anyone who didn't see that first video.
Was it self-defense or was it murder, man? What do you think? Now, I know a lot of you are caught up on it. You know what I'm saying? Sentencing has happened. He's been guilty. But what do you think? What do you think? From the details that you know, was it self-defense or was it murder?
I haven't really heard about this particular case. Again, I covered the full background in my last breakdown, so check out that video if you want the full story. But now Karmelo has actually learned his fate. He got 35 years in prison. And there are a few parts of this update that are important to talk about, because this case was not just about what happened under that tent. It became a conversation, I should say, about race. It became a conversation about self-defense. It became a conversation about social media misinformation. It became a conversation about whether people were looking at the evidence or whether they had already picked a side before the trial even started. One of the biggest things that happened before the trial started was the jury selection. And this is a very important part about this particular trial here. Because when the jury was selected, it was reported that no black jurors were chosen for the panel. And because Karmelo Anthony is black and Austin Metcalf was white, a lot of people immediately started looking at this case through a racial lens. So there are around or more than 500 people on the list of potential jurors. After the process was over, the final jury did not include any black jurors. And before that jury was seated... That's never
a great thing. You know what I mean? You want to be judged by your peers, man. Your peers mean others like you, not one race. If I murdered a white person, I do not want to be judged by all white people. You know what I'm saying? Because it's going to be a lot of bias up there. Now, if it's my peers, go grab a mixture of, you know, blacks, Asians, Mexicans, we'll put them all up here with me. Let them judge me. Don't just grab people from this area. Get some people from, you know what I mean? Don't just go to the suburbs and get those who going to look at it one-sided. Of course they're going to look at it that way. Young black kid, they're automatically going to assume, you know what I mean, because he's black. 9 times out of 10, they're going to assume, oh, he did it. He has anger issues. He doesn't have a father at home. You know, they're going to say, you know what I mean? That's just how it go, man. It's racist mentality, man. You know what I mean? They're going to assume he doesn't have nothing worth, you know what I mean? He did it. That's what they do. They're gangbangers. That's what they're violent. When all along, what about the white kids? White kids can't be bullies. They can't be thugs. You know what I mean? They can't have aggression. They can't walk up and hit people and threaten people. You know what I'm saying? Now, is it self-defense or murder? Obviously, they saw it as murder.
The defense objected because prosecutors used their strikes to remove 3 black women from the jury pool. And then it was argued that those women were removed because they were educators. And their argument was basically that this incident happened at a school function involving young students, so their occupations as educators were irrelevant. But the defense pushed back and basically said these were the remaining black potential jurors who still had a real chance of making it onto the final jury. And from the defense perspective, once the prosecution removed all 3 of them, that meant no black jurors were left for the final panel. Now, the judge in this case, they reviewed the issue and ultimately denied the defense challenge, finding that the state had a non-racial reason for removing them. And this was a very big part as far as a conversation, very controversial part about this trial. Now, this is where it's very important to slow down and actually clarify something, because a lot of people online started saying, how can this be a jury of his peers if there are no black people on the jury? Just to clarify, legally, jury of your peers does not mean the jury has to match your race. That's not what it means. Because
we know it don't. We know it don't, but that's what you want to be judged by. Putting all white people on a case against a black kid who killed a white boy. Come on, man.
Black defendant is not legally guaranteed a black jury, and then a white defendant is not legally guaranteed a white jury. It goes both ways. What it really means is that the jury is supposed to come from a fair cross section of the community, and that people cannot be excluded because of race. So the legal question is not simply, are there black people on the jury? The legal question is, were there black jurors excluded because they were black? And in this case, the judge accepted the prosecution's explanation that the strikes were based on occupation, not race. So people can still have their opinions about the optics, because the optics were always going to look bad to some people. And because this case is so racially charged, having no black jurors was always going to become a talking point. So this part doesn't mean that the trial was illegal or unfair. So I just think it's really important that people understand what a lot of these terms mean. Jury of your peers does not mean jury of people who look like you. It just means that a jury was selected from the community through a legal process without unconstitutional discrimination, and this is why the conversation around this case became so messy. So this is before we even got into the trial, okay? And this kind of made a lot of people look at Karmelo as a black teenager being railroaded by the system. And then others saw Austin as an innocent kid whose death was being minimized because the internet turned the case into a political argument.
Right. Exactly what happened.
We were speaking just a little while ago to some women who came here from around North Texas, one from South Dallas, one from DeSoto, about what brought them here. They said they were here to support the defendant, Karmelo Anthony, and his family.
The jury that he had amongst what is supposed to be his peers, they weren't going to look at actual facts of the situation. They were going off of emotions and color.
Now, outside the courthouse, this case became a spectacle. There were supporters, spectators, demonstrators, and people showing up early just to get a seat in the courtroom. So by the time opening statements started, this was already bigger than just a regular murder trial. This had become a national conversation. And inside the courtroom, both sides gave the jury 2 completely different versions of the same event. The prosecution's version was very straightforward. They said that this was a provoked, unjustified murder. They argued that Karmelo was under a tent that did not belong to his school. He was told to leave. He refused, and when the confrontation escalated, he pulled out a knife. The state argued...
Told to leave by who, though? Like, what supervision told him to leave? Because they're saying the Austin kid told him to leave. Like, I don't have to leave. You don't, like, what you mean, brother? Just because you say leave, I'm supposed to leave? You know what I'm saying? Like, what really transpired in that moment? What really transpired in that moment to where somebody has to stab you? What did you say? What did y'all say? Because they say it was him and his brother. And I know one brother ain't going to let one brother get into it without the other. You know what I mean? So what really happened?
That this had nothing to do with race and that the evidence did not support self-defense. So their position was that Karmelo created the situation and had the weapon and decided to respond to this argument with deadly force when he didn't need to. And then they were basically saying that you cannot provoke someone, produce a knife, and then take a life. And that was the state's entire frame. Even if Austin touched him first, even if Austin shoved him, even if the situation got heated, the prosecution's argument was that a shove does not justify a stab to the chest. Now, the defense, of course, saw it completely different. Karmelo's attorney argued that there had been a lot of noise around the case and a lot of false information. He said that Karmelo went under the tent to get out of the rain, and then he also described Karmelo as a student who had a much smaller frame than Austin and argued that Austin made the first physical contact. And that is true. Austin was the first person to touch him, right? And then they also said that Karmelo reacted in fear and chaos, and they were basically saying that Karmelo was put in a frightening situation. He made a split-second decision and acted in self-defense. So basically, it's the same story, just framed in a very different way, right? And the fact here at the end of the day is that there was an argument, there was a confrontation, there was physical contact, there were warning signs allegedly made, and then there were questions about who escalated it, right? At least from the defense perspective. And then, of course, we had the knife. And once the knife came out, the situation changed completely. Because now we're not talking about a school argument anymore. You're talking about deadly force. And then during the trial, jurors were shown enhanced surveillance video from the track meet. But the video was not this crystal clear piece.
They said it was blurry. But then I heard that somebody said they saw the video and it was crystal clear, zoomed in. But then when they presented it in court, it was blurry on purpose. I did hear that. I saw somebody on the internet say that. I don't know how true that is, but you know, what do y'all think? What do you think about this situation right here? Do you feel like they are hiding some things from the people? They are definitely covering up some things from the people? Or do you feel like this is an open and shut case? And hey, man, he did it. He stabbed him. He shouldn't have stabbed him. He deserves to go to jail. What is your thoughts on this right here, man? Because one thing we don't know is the characteristics of either. That's what what do we know about Karmelo, his day-to-day? How is he at school? How is he with other students? Does he gangbang? Is he a square? And vice versa. Austin, you know, they done put the racist thing on him. Is he a racist? You know what I'm saying? Does he say the N-word? Is he a cool guy? Is he a square? Is he a bully? What do we know about the characteristics of both people involved? But that doesn't matter. Even the characteristics doesn't matter. But at the end of the day, is the action justified? A shove could be met with a knife. You know what I'm saying? Whether you say, oh, he was a bully, he was this, he was that. Still, if I'm a bully, I shove you. Should I be stabbed? What's your thoughts on that? If somebody shoves you, should you be able to stab them? That's what it boils down to. You know what I mean?
The evidence that answered every question. The footage was from across the stadium. It was very far away. You couldn't hear anything. You couldn't really see anything. And even though the footage was enhanced, it did not clearly show the actual stabbing in detail. A video expert testified that the video showed movement under the tent and that there appeared to be pushing or shoving. But even people covering the trial said it was hard to tell exactly what was happening under the tent. So the video did not necessarily settle the whole debate by itself. That means witness testimony became extremely important, and this is where things started to hurt Karmelo's defense, because several students who were under the tent testified about what they saw. One student reportedly said people were telling Karmelo he should leave the tent. The student said the situation got more aggressive and that Karmelo refused to leave. And then witnesses also described Karmelo saying things like, touch me and you'll find out. And according to some testimony, Karmelo was asked to leave as many as 15 times. So that detail obviously matters because it speaks to the moment of escalation, or at least before.
See, that's a game changer. That's a game changer. Now, if that's true, if we're saying, hey, leave, and everybody, if there is some supervision or the whole team is saying leave, and you're now turning this to, I ain't going nowhere. Make me. Hey, just leave, man, leave. Hey, get from over here. No, make me. Touch me. I dare you. One of y'all touch me. Now that switches things up. Because if you're given the opportunity to leave, now I'm thinking it was like, hey, man, you got to leave, and somebody walked up and shoved him. Boom, get up out of here. And I stabbed back. Hey, listen, man, I would rock with that. I'd be like, hey, look, man, hold on. They came in and tried to bully him. He reacted. He wasn't thinking. Okay, I can see that. But if you're now becoming the agitator, where it's like, man, I dare one of y'all make me leave. And then you got the knife in hand. That's a little, where'd the knife come into play? Was it already whipped out? That's the one thing I haven't heard yet. Was it already whipped out and in hand ready to go while saying, you're going to find out what's going to happen? Make me. You'll find out with the knife in hand? Or did that become like after I got shoved, I reached for it, grabbed it, stabbed him? Who knows? Let me know. Let's see if we talk about it right here. That's the one thing I've been trying to figure out the whole time.
If the jury believed Karmelo had multiple chances to leave and he refused, that makes the self-defense argument much harder.
Yeah.
Because self-defense is not just about whether somebody touched you first. It's also about whether your response was reasonable.
Yeah.
And prosecutors lean into that. They also asked witnesses whether anyone tried to gang up on Karmelo. One witness reportedly said no. They asked whether Austin looked like he was trying to pick a fight. One witness reportedly said no. They asked whether Karmelo looked like he was trying to pick a fight. And then that witness reportedly said yes. Another witness said this did not look like self-defense to them and described Karmelo as the aggressor. Now, obviously, witnesses can see things differently, right? And in emotional, chaotic moments, people's memories can obviously differ. But when multiple witnesses start giving testimony that supports one side's version of events, that can become powerful for a jury. So it's not necessarily about our opinion, it's about what they say happened, because they were there at the end of the day. And then for Karmelo, his defense, they're basically just arguing that Austin made the first physical contact. And again, that is true based on the arrest report, right? And so from their perspective, if Austin put hands on him first, the defense could obviously argue that Karmelo did not start the physical fight. And then they kind of responded to that by saying, even if Austin pushed him, you do not get to respond with a knife. And then that became the central question of this case. How much force is too much force?
That's what it breaks down to. Can a shove be met with a knife? Ask yourself right now, if somebody shoves you, right? Is that justified for you to stab them with a knife, and vice versa? If you shove somebody, is that justified for them to now stab you and kill you? What do you think? That's what it boils down to, y'all. That's what it boils down to. Now, unless you got some groundbreaking, they was jumping them, they was stumping them out, they was doing this, people would understand that. But it's like, if there was nothing more than just a shove and words, that's where it gets tricky, man. You know what I'm saying? I hate that he's young and he has to go to jail for 35 years. But what I take from this situation, it was a dumb decision, young, prideful decision, man. Egotistical, prideful decision. And it happens, man. We young. Like, when we young and we in high school, we don't make the best decisions sometimes, man. You know what I'm saying? And you got these white kids and you probably looking at them like they don't like us, they don't like blacks. And they, like, these might be, that school. You know how I go, where that school that come to your, and it's like, y'all got some beef. Whether it's like, oh, this school is they represent this gang. Or this school represent this race. This school that come up, and when we go meet with them, we know we're going to bump heads over that. Like, this is a school that's racist. This is a school that got all the Crips. This is a school that got all the Bloods. And when we play them in sports, they're going to live up to the hype. Now, is this the reputation where he went over there to be an agitator? Let me go sit underneath their tent. And I dare one nigga say something to me. Could it be that? Or was it just simply, hey, I saw one of my homies, like they're saying, and I was going to talk to him. And they came up on some Debo shit. But is it justifiable to meet a shove with a knife? That's what it broke down to.
At one point, does self-defense become an unjustified killing? And what does the law allow you to do when someone puts hands on you, but you're the one holding a deadly weapon? And then the testimony also addressed Austin's twin brother, Hunter. There had been a lot of speculation online about what role Hunter played in the confrontation. A lot of people were basically saying that Austin and Hunter, they were kind of like ganging up on Karmelo. And that's actually a very big narrative that a lot of people have taken as a fact. But according to reporting from the actual trial, witnesses said Hunter was on the other side of the tent, scrolling on his phone, and did not become involved until after Austin was stabbed. And of course that matters, because online a lot of people have been kind of building that narrative before the trial. And so when a lot of this testimony ended up coming out, a lot of those narratives did not hold up the same way. Now, another very emotional...
All right, when you say these testimonies, we do got to take in consideration that this tent was Austin's peers, Austin's teammates. Now, was any of Karmelo's teammates over there confirming the same thing? Did Karmelo's teammates confirm the same thing that Austin teammates confirmed? Or is this one-sided? You know what I mean? Like, because if you're saying all the testimonies and y'all only took testimonies from Austin's team, of course they're going to side with their boy. But did anybody from Karmelo's side say, hey, I'm going to be fair. this is what really happened, and the story matched what they said.
Part of the trial was what happened after the stabbing. A coach testified that he spoke with Karmelo afterward, and according to reports, the coach said Karmelo appeared generally upset. Karmelo allegedly said he put hands on me, and he kept repeating that idea that Austin put his hands on him first. And there was also testimony from a school resource officer who detained Karmelo after the incident, and they were saying that Karmelo was very cooperative at that moment. And that same person also testified that Karmelo had said, "I'm not alleged, I did it." And this is, of course, very important because it shows what Karmelo's mindset seemed to be right after the incident. He was not denying that he stabbed Austin. He was saying he did it because Austin touched him. But that still left the jury with the same legal question. Was that enough to justify deadly force? I mean, this is the whole point, or this was the whole point of this trial. Was this justified, right? And clearly, based on a verdict, the jury thought it was not. Another important part here was that Karmelo did not want to testify. So he didn't testify in this case, right? And legally, he had every right not to testify. Obviously, he doesn't have to take the stand. The prosecution cannot force him to testify, and the jury is not supposed to hold that against him. But practically, when your defense is built around your state of mind, fear, chaos, terror, split-second reaction, there's always a challenge if the jury never hears directly from you. And yes, your own defense can explain it. Witnesses can describe what they saw, even though a lot of those witnesses were not testifying in favor of Karmelo because of what they had seen, right? And of course, his lawyers can argue a bunch of things, but the jury never heard Karmelo personally explain what he felt in that moment. And honestly, maybe that could have helped him in this case. I don't really know, right? But if you're saying that you were afraid and you were protecting yourself, and the jury had seen you kind of like speak about those things and what you felt in the moment, honestly, I feel like that would have probably really helped his case. That's just...
I will agree there. I will say I would have, taking a stand can either help you or hurt you. Now, in the situation where you're lying, it can hurt you. Because if you got a great lawyer, if they got a great lawyer, they will definitely pick them parts apart, pick them layers back, peel them layers back, and find out the truth. They will definitely peel the layers back and find out the truth. Now, if you're telling the truth, I would definitely say, hey, man, get on a stand and just tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, brother. Because if that's really how you felt in that moment, you were scared, this is what happened, they tried to rush you, they tried to do this, then we need to know that. What was you feeling in that moment, brother? Go on a stand. And if you're not going, and like, if you truly are honest on how you felt and people feel it was justified, then, hey, man, at least I can sleep at night knowing I told my truth. But when it's like, I don't want to go on a stand, it does kind of put a question mark in the air of why. Why won't he take the stand? Because he's lying? Like, it's definitely going to put a question mark, regardless of they say they don't want the jury to hold that against you. That's what a lot of people would assume, like, wait, why he don't want to take the stand? Why he don't want to tell, this is now, nigga, this now or never, nigga. You're looking at 35 years, brother. You might want to come up here and convince us that what you did was justified and why. And then when a nigga like, nah, I don't want to take the stand. Okay. Shit. Nothing else to talk about. You know what I'm saying? They made their mind up.
What I think, right? Because he's saying that's what happened. But then again, that doesn't mean that he was wrong for not testifying. But I'm just surprised that if you're saying that that's what happened, then why would you not be on a stand testifying for what really happened if you thought you were justified? And in a self-defense case, I just feel like that absence can definitely be felt because a big part is about what the defendant, the person being accused of the particular crime, reasonably believed in that moment. I was really fearing for my life, and so that's why I did this. And that's when a lot of the emotion that's going to come from that particular person can affect what the jury actually thinks. So, of course, the jury, since they did not hear it from Karmelo himself, they were left to piece together everything just based on the information they had.
Yeah. You see how I still got questions right now on what type of character are these kids? Like, I still haven't had that answer. Like, what if we're sitting here justifying, or we're putting that, this black kid was a gangster or a thug, but really he's a square and he was scared and he gets bullied all the time. What if it's that? And like, if he got on that stand and he was able to tell us that, and we could know, like, damn, that'll win some hearts over. Like, bro, but then if you don't, they're going to automatically assume because you're black, a lot of the times, 10 times out of 10, because you're black, like, you're the aggressor. You're the aggressor one. You're ghetto. You're the gangster. And that's just how that shit be. That's what we be up against. They be scared when they see this black skin, man, when they go into the ghetto, into the hood areas and hop out, compared to going to Brentwood out here in the white areas or Beverly Hills and dealing with white people. You know what I'm saying? It's just what it is. Same shit in school. It's like, you know what I'm saying? These kids go to a white preppy school. Like, they're not known for being gangsters and thugs. Although they do all kind of other crazy shit that we don't do. You know what I'm saying? They do all kind of crazy shit. But for some reason, man, they're going to look at him like the gangster and the thug. That's just what it is, man. And I hate that it's that way. And I hope that he can appeal this in a lesser sentence, man. 35 years that's just crazy, man. 35 years for a 17-year-old. Like, come on, man. He's still a kid, bro. He made a dumb decision. Yes, give him some time. But don't 35 years. You're railroading that little nigga. Like, that's not cool.
Now, interestingly enough, the judge allowed the jury to consider manslaughter as a lesser option, so they didn't only have to choose between murder and not guilty. They could have said, we do not fully believe this was self-defense, but we also don't think this was murder. So that would have been manslaughter, right? And that would have carried a much lower punishment range. So for Karmelo, that was a major opportunity. If they wanted to compromise, manslaughter was sitting right there, but they didn't take it. After deliberating, the jury found Karmelo guilty of murder. That was the first major blow. So at this point, the self-defense argument had failed. They rejected the manslaughter option, and Karmelo was now facing the punishment range for murder. But the case was still not over, because after the guilty verdict, the trial moved into the sentencing phase. And this is where the defense had one major argument, and that argument is called sudden passion. Now, sudden passion is different from manslaughter. This is where people kind of get things confused, so let's just simplify this. Manslaughter would have been a different conviction before the guilty verdict, right? So they could have convicted him of manslaughter instead of murder, but they didn't do that. They convicted him of murder. But during the sentencing, the defense could still argue sudden passion. And if the jury accepted this sudden passion thing, right, it would not erase the murder conviction, but it could reduce how the law treated the punishment. So instead of facing 5 to 99 years or life, the punishment range could have been reduced to, let's say, 2 to 20 years. So that was a huge deal. So really, Karmelo could have gotten a sentence that looked more like 10, 15, or 20 years, but they rejected sudden passion, and he stayed in the full murder punishment range. And then Karmelo's mother was actually called as a witness, and she testified about her son. She described him as her oldest child and said he would always be her baby. And then she was asked if Karmelo regretted what he did. She said yes, and that he was sorry. And here they're obviously trying to humanize him to remind the jury that this was still a young person, that he was 17 at the time when this happened, that he had a mother sitting there watching him face decades in prison. And another big part here from the prosecution's case, right, was that they really wanted the court to focus on Austin. They reminded them that Austin was a son and a brother, and that he had a family that he was never ever going to be able to see again, and they were never going to be able to see him, right? And then they talked about things like he would never get to graduate, fall in love, grow up, or live out the rest of his life because his life was taken from him. And that is a very powerful argument in sentencing. I mean, the fact that his life ended at 17 years old is tragic, right? Now, after about 2.5 hours of deliberation, the jury came back with the sentence, 35 years in prison. And that number says a lot because the jury did not give him the minimum. They did not give him 5 years. They didn't give him 10 years. They didn't accept sudden passion and cap it at 20. But they also did not give him 99 years or life. They landed at 35. So in a way, the jury punished him seriously, but they did not go all the way to the maximum.
99 years. What? Why would you give him 99 years? Listen, man, I feel a life was lost, yes. But you do got to take in consideration, these are kids, but like, this is, okay, like, if you out here and you just a known little young nigga out here gunning shit and you were always in trouble and in and out of jail, I can get where you could do that. This kid had no record. Straight A student. They said he was a straight A student from what I seen. A straight A student, had no record, wasn't a bad kid. You know what I'm saying? Made a terrible decision. Terrible decision, heat of the moment, didn't think. I don't even know how did he get access to a knife or why did he feel like it was needed in that moment. That's the thing I can't understand. You know, for a good kid to pull out a knife, that kind of like something ain't right there. If that's what they're saying, he's a good kid, straight A student, he doesn't get in trouble. Why does he have a knife and why did he resort straight to a knife in that situation? That's what the fuck I'm be trying to figure out. Why did he feel like a knife was needed? What did he know was going to happen that day, or who he was going to run into to where he knew I needed a knife and I needed it in my hand when these guys walked up? If that's the case, if it was in his hand already ready to go. But so many questions, man. So many questions, y'all. So many questions. But at the end of the day, this is a young life gone. 2 young lives gone. Young kid. Either way you look at it, regardless, I see, let's be unbiased. I see a parent lost their child, right? One to death, and another parent lost their child to the system, to jail. 2 parents took a loss. Neither parents are wrong. If somebody was to kill your kid, of course you're going to want them to go to jail for it. You know what I'm saying? Like, so I don't see, you know, it's just really the facts, man. What are the facts here? It's fucked up, but that it outside looking in, everything looks like the odds were against them. But what do we really know about Austin and Karmelo in that moment? 3 sides to every story, man. You know what I'm saying? Will the truth come out one day? But I feel like something is being left out of this. Something is being left out of this story, man. Austin people side with him. Karmelo people side with him. What's the truth, though? What's really, I don't know.
Karmelo will be eligible for parole after serving half of that sentence. But even with parole eligibility, this is still a massive sentence because half of 35 is 17 and a half, and Karmelo was 17 when this happened. So even if he becomes eligible for parole halfway through, he could still spend around the same amount of time in prison as he had been alive when this incident happened. So that's kind of crazy to think about. A decision that happened in seconds turned into decades. And after the sentence was read, Austin's family gave victim impact statements. His mother spoke about the pain of losing her son. She said that Karmelo may have been sentenced to 35 years, but she had been sentenced to a lifetime without her son. So even though Karmelo got 35 years, Austin's family got life. So for them, there's really no number that fixes anything. Austin is still gone. His twin brother still has to wake up every day without him. His parents still have to live with that empty room, those memories, and all the things he never got to become. And I feel like this is the part that a lot of times people forget when they turn cases like this into internet arguments. I really don't think this is a race war. That's just my opinion, right? This is a real life tragedy that should have never happened. And at the same time, Karmelo's family also has to live with the fact that their son is now going to prison for decades for the decisions he made. So now they have to watch him enter the prison system as a young man with a 35-year prison sentence. And that's
Damn. Almost 40 years, bro. God damn. I know as a parent, I'll be like, nigga, man, why, son? Why did you have to go take it there? You don't got to take it there. And like, that's why I'm like, if you had to take it there, why? What made you take it there? Talk to me as a parent. What made you take it there, son? With a knife? Because I'm with you. I'm with you right or wrong. You my son. I'm with you right or wrong. But just make, because now 40 years, that'll be crushing, man, to hear my son got 40 years in jail and vice versa, to hear your son got killed. Like, those are 2 crushing situations, man. You feel like, that, damn, this your seed right here, man. Why, son? Why'd you stab him? You know what I mean?
That's why this case is tragic all around. I mean, nobody won here. Austin's family did not win. Karmelo's family did not win.
Yeah,
the community
nobody
did not
won.
win. The only thing that happened is the legal system made a decision about accountability. The jury heard the evidence. They rejected self-defense. They rejected manslaughter. They rejected sudden passion, and they sentenced Karmelo Anthony to 35 years in prison. And the thing about this particular case is that it's kind of become a symbol for a lot of people. Some people looked at it as a black teenager being treated harshly by the system. Some people looked at it and saw a white teenager being killed and then watched the internet try to justify or minimize his death. So the majority of people, it feels like they focused on race. Other people focused on self-defense. Some people focused on school safety. Others on what really started this entire argument or situation that happened. From my perspective, I guess the bigger lesson about this particular situation and this tragedy that happened is how fast pride, fear, anger, and ego can destroy lives.
Yeah.
Because when you strip away all the politics and all the internet noise, This started with something that should have been survivable. An argument over a tent, a rainy day, a school track meet, somebody being told to leave, somebody feeling disrespected, somebody putting hands on somebody, and then a weapon comes out. This is the line that changed everything, right? Once that knife comes out, it's no longer a regular teenage argument. And now one teenager is dead. Another one is sentenced to 35 years. And both families are left with the reality that is. And that's why walking away is not a weakness. People say that all the time, but cases like this show you what it really means. Walking away can feel embarrassing in the moment. It can feel like you let somebody punk you. It can feel like people are watching and judging you based on that situation and saying that you're weak because you walked away.
But you live to see another day. You feel me? Damn. You feel, sometimes you got to be the bigger person, man, and walk away. Sometimes you have to, because if I stoop to your level, nigga, I'm going to end up in jail for 35 years. You know what I mean? If I give in to this energy, know what comes with it. If you give in to that energy, know what comes with it. Know the repercussions. But like he said right here, though, the bigger argument should be school safety. We all have kids who are in school, a lot of us, kids that are in school, and we need to know. We look at school as a safe place for our kids, but we do have to understand it is some darkness that be happening at these schools with these teachers being pedos, with kids having weapons, all kind of shit. We need to really look at school safety, bro. Like that's our kids. Are our kids safe at a track meet? Are our kids safe at a football game? Because we're not there with them. This, you know, when you get to high school, like when I was in high school, I'm going to all the games by myself. I ain't going to games with my parents. I'm going to the football games, the basketball games. I'm going all this shit. Like, what shit is being put in place for protection for our children to prevent situations like this from happening, where a kid could come in with a knife and be able to stab my son? Like, why is it that a kid was able to get through wherever? So there's no security, there's no metal detectors. You know what I mean? But every school don't have metal detectors and shit. That's like, you find that in like the ghetto. But that's a bigger issue, man. So like, fuck. Because, I mean, don't wait till it comes to your doorstep to try to ask these questions. Don't wait till it's your son or your daughter that gets stabbed at school to now want to ask these questions. Like, that's really like, yeah, this was like, you know, they both lost. But at the end of the day, moving forward, a lot of us still have kids in school. We don't want to hear this same story with our child. Our child stabbing somebody or vice versa being killed. No parent wants to hear that, bro. No parent wants to get the news that their child was taken to jail or killed. So what can be done at these schools where you don't want them feeling like an inmate coming to school, but at the same time, what can be done? Like, that's the real conversation.
But if walking away means you get to go home and the other person gets to go home, then walking away is the strongest decision in the room. And this is what happens when nobody walks away. And in my opinion, the person who should have walked away is Karmelo. Now, this is where the bigger conversation is being had about, was 35 years fair? Should he have maybe gotten more? Should he have gotten less? Because depending on who you ask, some people are going to say 35 years is too harsh for someone who was 17 at the time. Some people are going to say that this was a young man who made one terrible decision in the middle of a chaotic situation, and that his whole life should not be completely thrown away because of a few seconds. But on the other side, you have to ground yourself in what actually happened here. Austin Metcalf is never coming back. He was 17 years old, was stabbed in the chest, and the knife pierced his heart, and that killed him. He died at a school track meet in front of students, coaches, and his own twin brother. And Karmelo Anthony took his life. So as much as people can debate the number of years, we can't lose sight of the reality of what happened. A young man was killed. A family lost their son. A twin brother lost the person he came into this world with. And Austin did not get a second chance. So personally, when I look at the full picture, I think Karmelo Anthony is very lucky he did not get life in prison. I think he's very lucky he did not get 99 years, which for all intents and purposes would have basically been life. And I know some people might not like hearing that, but that's honestly how I personally see it. Because when you take somebody's life, especially in a situation where the jury already rejected self-defense, 35 years is serious, but it is not the maximum. It's not the harshest sentence he could have received. And if he becomes eligible for parole after serving half of that sentence, that means there's at least a possibility that he can still walk out of prison one day. Austin will never get that possibility. Austin does not get to grow up. He doesn't get to graduate, build a life, start a family, or become whoever he was supposed to become. That future is gone forever. So when people say 35 years is too much, I understand the instinct to look at Karmelo's age and feel like it's tragic, because it is tragic, right? Objectively speaking. But you have to ask yourself, what is the value of the life that was taken? What is the value of Austin's future? What is the value of his family having to live with this forever? And that's why I personally think Karmelo got off easier than he could have. Not because 35 years is light. It's not. 35 years is a huge prison sentence.
It ain't no got off easy, man. It ain't no got off easy, man. But that's just crazy. That's just crazy, man. Listen, man. 2 lives lost, man. You got to make better decisions, kids. Like, you know what I mean? That's what you got to teach your kids. Make the best decisions possible in these type of moments, man. Don't move on instinct. Don't move off. You know what I mean? I don't think, me personally, now here's my thing. Yes, I think he wanted to stab the nigga. Yes, I think he like, hey, I'm underneath y'all tent. You motherfuckers probably all yelling at me. There's probably 10 of y'all, 15 of y'all. Get from over here. Get from over here. My ego is kicking. My pride is kicking. Man, fuck y'all. Shut up. Make me. Do something. Hey, yeah. Shut up. And it's the tough guy. The tough guy out the crew, a.k.a. Austin. He walks up. Hey, man, get the fuck from out of here, bro. Boom. Pushes him. And then now I got to make an example out of you. Now, what you should have did is use that fist, brother. But we're in a time where kids don't want to use that fist. These youth don't want to use a fist no more. They want to use weapons. They want to use guns. Now, do I think he wanted to kill him? No. He had a weapon. Did he want to prove a point? Yes. He probably wanted to prove a point. Nigga, you run up on me, niggas. You know what I mean? But did I want to kill you? I don't think he wanted to kill him. But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. That doesn't matter because a life was already lost. A life was lost. A child, you know what I mean? And you got to look at it. Let's peel back the layers. Let's take it from being a white kid and let's put another black kid in place. And let's take that black kid, and for you black viewers that are watching, let's make that your black kid. He stabs the black, same situation. I'm sitting underneath the tent. They're telling me to leave. He gets up. He stabs your son, your black son. Would you say, oh, no, he was justified. He was right. It was cool. Hey, my son fucked up. My son had no business telling you to leave. He was right. You're not going to say that. You know what I mean? So that's why I say you got to look at it from a parent aspect too. You feel me? Fuck all the like race shit. I get it. The optics, how it look, is definitely going to be easy to say the race shit. Cool, but let's really get past that. Let's get past the race shit, y'all. And let's really look at what happened here. Like, all right, was a shove worth a life? You know what I mean? Was a shove worth a life? That's what it comes down to. Like, as a parent, like, was it worth my child being killed just because he shoved you? You know what I mean? And if you have a kid, put your kid in place of, are you willing to sacrifice your son being killed just because he put somebody, you're going to understand that they killed your son because he shoved them. You're not. You know what I'm saying? Why? Because all he did was shove you. That's what you're going to say. All he did was shove you. Y'all could have fought. You know what I mean? And that's what makes this whole case tricky. The optics of the black versus white. And yes, you know what I mean? Of course, by a lot of us going to be pro-black for sure. But then we also can't be unbiased and ignorant. You can't be ignorant. You know what I mean? And you do got to like, what really happened here, man? What really happened here, man? You know what I'm saying? Like, and what's the bigger issue? How are kids getting knives and guns on these school campuses? Why are kids able to still get guns and knives to be able to kill other students on these school campuses? Like, we want to know that our kids are safe while at school, while we at work. Our kids are in good hands. Our kids are protected. That's what we want to know, man. You know what I'm saying? And how do we make that happen? How do we make that possible? Will that ever be possible? Because we see it time and time again. Kids getting killed at basketball games. They getting killed right when they walk out of school at the bus stops. They getting killed at school. You know what I mean? It's a sad situation, man. Lives lost at a young age. But let me know what y'all think, man. Was 35 years too much? Was it justified? Do you see it as Austin was wrong, he deserved to die? Do you see it as Karmelo was wrong, he didn't have to kill him over a shove? Let me know in the comment section. I'm going to give you 2 seconds to smash the like. And as always, get ready for the next reaction.